He's the most out-of-place doctor in the hospital, blunt, unfiltered, and always going his own way. His co-workers don't understand him, and patients often misjudge him. But every time someone's life hangs by a thread, he somehow manages to pull off the impossible and bring them back. He's Shaun Murphy. Even when the whole world doubts him, he still stands at the operating table, proving with his actions that even someone different can become a truly great doctor. Are you ready to witness his rise? A homeless man named Harry lifts his lip, revealing pus-filled sores on his gums. A wave of foul, fishy stench hits the air, but Shaun grins like a child. His internal illness radar is going off like crazy. Shaun pours out a cup of alcohol to disinfect Harry's mouth. But strangely, even with the cup right in front of him, Harry can't seem to grab it. This shows a loss of depth perception, an issue with the brain. After taking the alcohol, Harry stiffly twisted his neck. Jared suspects that the infection may have spread to his brain, causing bacterial meningitis, which could explain Harry's strange behavior. But Shaun has a hunch. It might not be that simple. At this point, they have no choice but to bring Harry to the hospital for a spinal tap. But Shaun, usually eager to treat any patient, hesitates. Judging by Harry's appearance, he clearly can't afford the test. And if the hospital covers the cost, the new hospital president definitely won't be happy. That's when Jared says, since it's his last day on the job, he's willing to take full responsibility. So they bring Harry back to the hospital. Sure enough, halfway through the exam, Marcus shows up. He pulled Shaun and Jared aside to talk about the cost. Jared stays true to his word. He insists Harry has meningitis and takes all the blame. Marcus even makes a bet with him. If it's not bacterial meningitis, Jared will cover the cost himself. The test results come back quickly, and Harry does not have meningitis, so he's sent right back to the homeless camp. But what exactly is causing all of Harry's strange symptoms? To find out, they'll need deeper tests. But again, it all comes down to money. With no clear answers, Shaun goes to visit Glassman, who's currently battling brain cancer. Glassman sits there grumpily tossing paper balls, but they all land awkwardly around the edge of the trash can. Watching this, something clicks in Shaun's mind. He suddenly rips a page from his medical book, crumples it, and prepares to throw. In the next moment, math equations flash through his mind. Brain tumors can disrupt spatial coordination, often leading to depth perception problems. Shaun recalls how Harry reached for the cup earlier. It was the same.
Schizophrenia, but he does not. He has a brain tumor.
Excited, Shaun rushes to Jared and tells him everything. Their top priority now is to find Harry and give him an MRI scan. But Shaun, being on the spectrum, struggles with social interaction. He'll need help searching for Harry. Jared had made up his mind to resign, so he devoted himself wholeheartedly to helping Shaun. The two of them return to the homeless camp and, after searching around, finally find Harry. But Harry insists he doesn't know them. The tumor's pressure has also caused severe dissociative symptoms. He has no memory of that morning and just wants them to leave him alone. That's when Shaun finds an ID card in the tent and reads out Harry's real name, Edward. It turns out Edward wasn't always homeless. He once had a happy family, but as his illness worsened, his mind fractured and a homeless persona took over. Shaun gathers his courage and opens up about his own thoughts.
I will always have it. You have a neurological condition too, but yours can be cured. You just need some surgery. Then you can be Edward Austin Thomas again.
After Shaun's heartfelt words, Edward finally agrees to get treatment. But during the MRI, Marcus barges in again to confront Shaun and Jared. This time, though, Jared stands firmly by Shaun's side.
And whether he's right or not, I couldn't be prouder to back him because he sticks to his gut and he fights for what he thinks is right.
Just as Shaun suspected, the scan reveals a tumor in Edward's right parietal lobe, clearly visible on the screen. Marcus has nothing more to say. Faced with the evidence, he can only prepare the operating room for them, and the surgery goes smoothly. Edward lies in bed, waiting to wake up, and just then, his wife and daughter arrive at the hospital. From his wife, they learn the truth. Back then, doctors failed to diagnose Edward's tumor. Due to misdiagnosis and ineffective medication, Edward became extremely irritable. To protect his family, Edward chose to leave home, and eventually, a second personality took over. At that moment, Edward finally opens his eyes. He remembers nothing of what happened, but his family, in tears, rushes to embrace him. Shaun saved another family, but he doesn't look happy because his closest colleague is about to leave. He can only wish Jared well, hoping that wherever he goes, he'll be a truly great doctor too. At the same time, hospital janitor Paul is hiccuping repeatedly. Shaun declares he has cancer because Shaun counted 17 hiccups in just 10 minutes, a common symptom of pancreatic cancer. But Neil told him to think simpler, maybe just acid reflux. Shaun isn't convinced. He points out Paul is also showing signs of jaundice. This makes Neil pause. He brings Shaun over to Paul to take a closer look. Sure enough, with just one glance, Neil ordered Shaun to run a full battery of tests on Paul, but absolutely no mention of their suspicions was to be made until the results came in. In Neil's opinion, there was no need to scare Paul, but the task fell to Shaun, who has autism. And sure enough, Shaun told Paul a clumsy lie, claiming the hospital gives free exams to all janitors with potential symptoms just to prevent the spread of infections. As expected, Paul raised his doubts right away.
I had the flu last week. Why didn't anybody do anything for me then?
It's
You
a
might
new
have
policy.
pancreatic cancer.
The test results came back quickly. As it turned out, Paul really did have pancreatic cancer, and it was already in its late stage. He likely had less than a year to live. The doctors began discussing treatment options. They had two. Option 1, conservative treatment. In other words, there was no saving him. He'd be waiting for the end. Option 2, a Whipple procedure, a risky surgery. Neil, the attending physician, leaned toward the first option, but Shaun disagreed. Still, the final decision had to come from the patient. So, the doctors explained everything to Paul and his family. His eldest daughter said she hoped he would choose surgery. But upon hearing this, Paul fell silent. Facing life and death, no one can make a decision lightly. That night, Shaun came to Paul's room to apologize for lying earlier. But Paul didn't blame him. They ended up talking about the surgery. Paul said he would go through with it because it was his family's decision. He loved them wholeheartedly, and their decision was his decision. Soon, the surgery began. The doctors worked together seamlessly and successfully removed the tumor from Paul's pancreas. Afterward, Shaun went to find Paul's family and shared the good news. But not long after, Paul was rushed back into surgery. He had developed disseminated intravascular coagulation, and his vital signs were crashing fast. Even Shaun could only scramble to respond. After finally completing an aortic clamp procedure, Paul then went into ventricular fibrillation. The team fought to save him, doing everything they could, but it wasn't enough. One by one, his vital signs dropped to zero. Paul died on the operating table. As the one who proposed the surgery, Shaun intended to take responsibility and deliver the tragic news to the family, but Neil stopped him. Claire's single "I'm sorry" shattered the tense waiting of Paul's family, reducing them to tears on the spot. No matter how well-reasoned Claire's explanation was, they couldn't hear a word of it. Only silent tears fell. Paul's family began blaming one another, but deep down, everyone knew they were all at fault. They had pressured Paul into making a dangerous decision. A family that had once been whole was now on the verge of falling apart. At that moment, Shaun said, "It wasn't your fault. Paul wanted the surgery."
Paul wanted this surgery. He told me he wanted this surgery.
Those words broke the tension and brought peace to Paul's grieving family. Shaun quietly left the room. Later, Shaun and Morgan were examining a patient named Nate. Morgan noticed Nate had an unusual erection accompanied by an abscess, but the glands had no blood flow. They quickly drained the oxygen-deprived blood and restored circulation, saving Nate from the risk of tissue death. By 7 p.m., though they'd bought some time, Nate had been holding on for 32 hours. So this time, Shaun brought out a thicker needle. To fully restore blood flow, they needed to perform the winter procedure and open a hole large enough for proper drainage. Shaun and Morgan promised it wouldn't hurt, but Nate, still traumatized, refused to agree. Just then, Shaun noticed Nate's raised foot and rapidly calculated the nerve pathways in his mind. After running further tests, they discovered the root of Nate's problem was an expanding epidural abscess in the pelvic region. Surgery was needed immediately. The operation went smoothly overall. After disinfecting with bacitracin, they removed the abscess and repaired the damaged nerves, helping Nate regain function and confidence. When Nate woke up from anesthesia, he wiggled his toes. Everything was working perfectly. Shaun had worked through the night, but his shift wasn't over yet. A young boy came in, holding a light bulb in his mouth. The initial diagnosis showed a strained masseter muscle, causing a locked jaw due to spasms. The doctors proposed several solutions, but all of them risked tearing the boy's jaw muscle. Even worse, if the bulb shattered, the glass shards could be inhaled into the lungs, making things far more dangerous. Just as everyone was stumped, Shaun came up with an idea. He slid a surgical-grade bag into the boy's mouth, carefully wrapping it around the bulb. Once everything was in place, they counted to 3 and told the boy to bite down hard. Shaun gave a sharp pull. The bulb shattered, but all the pieces landed safely inside the bag. The thick surgical plastic held up, and not a single shard entered the boy's mouth. And just like that, Shaun's long, intense day finally came to an end. Kitty was free climbing when she fell from 800 meters high. Now she couldn't move a single part of her body, except her head. To repair her cervical spine, the doctors gave her 2 options. The first was spinal fusion. It's the safer choice, but it comes with a price. Kitty would lose mobility in her neck, which means she could never climb again. The second option was odontoid screw fixation. It would preserve her ability to climb, but the surgery carried greater risk. Without hesitation, Kitty chose the second. She loved climbing. Without it, she'd rather die. Her parents panicked. Kitty was only 18, yet constantly chasing danger. She'd already broken over 30 bones. They insisted on choosing the first, safer procedure. But Kitty said her life was her own. She was 18, and she had the legal right to decide her own treatment. The doctors had no choice but to respect her decision. Still, Claire couldn't help but wonder, by standing aside like this, were they truly helping Kitty or hurting her? She took her concerns to her superior doctor. Lim could only sigh and say, doctors couldn't override Kitty's choice. But did that mean her parents had no say at all? As expected, her parents brought in a lawyer. They claimed Kitty suffered from mental health issues and had a serious tendency towards self-harm. Given her frequent hospitalizations, their testimony was convincing. On the other hand, Kitty clearly showed signs of emotional immaturity. In the end, the lawyer sided with the parents and approved the safer option. The moment she heard the ruling, Kitty broke down completely. A dangerous thought began to take root in her mind. Before the surgery, she asked Claire to deliver a message to her parents. After the surgery, she would cut all ties with them. Claire passed along her words just as Kitty said them. Her parents didn't blame her for being emotional. After all, her life would always be the most important thing to them, even if it meant never seeing her again. It was better than losing her altogether. They believed that one day, once Kitty truly matured, she would understand how much her parents loved her. The surgery went smoothly, but Kitty remained unhappy. Climbing had become part of her soul, but could it ever truly outweigh the love of the parents who raised her? That was where Kitty's story ended. As for how things turned out, we may never know. But here's the real question. Where was our main character Shaun this time? Getting punched. This time the patient was Mac. The guy's tough. He walked into the hospital with a wooden stake jammed through his shoulder and didn't even flinch. Shaun took one look and figured it out. Mac had an intellectual disability. That's the only reason he could tolerate that level of pain. Shaun performed surgery, first removing the large stake, then carefully picking out every splinter of wood. It had to be done with extreme precision. It took 3 full hours, but the operation was a success. They delivered the good news to Mac's mother, Nicole. But strangely, Nicole didn't seem relieved. She almost sounded disappointed. Was there something more going on with this family? Sure enough, the very next day they were back at the hospital. This time, it was Nicole who was injured. She claimed her hand had been cut by accident on a piece of glass, but the wound was far too severe. The doctor suspected this was man-made. She needed immediate surgery, but as she was being wheeled away, Mac became agitated. He started shouting and thrashing in the hospital. Shaun tried to calm him down, only to take a solid punch to the face. It wasn't until Mac was sedated that the situation finally settled down. After surgery, Nicole revealed the truth. Mac was the one who hurt her. Because of his intellectual disability, Mac often couldn't control his behavior, and his mother was the one who took the brunt of it. Neil suggested she consider putting Mac in a psychiatric facility. But how could she give up her child so easily? Shaun, being on the autism spectrum himself, could understand Mac's struggles. He talked with him and realized Mac wasn't acting out on purpose. He simply didn't know how to set boundaries. Precisely because they loved each other so deeply, maybe separation was the only way to protect that love. In the end, mother and son embraced tightly. 2 families, 2 goodbyes, one filled with pain, the other with love. So, what kind of urine lets Shaun instantly tell someone is sick? This man had come in for a routine visit, just a little joint pain, looking for some meds, but he happened to cross paths with Shaun. One look at his urine and Shaun suspected emphysematous cystitis and maybe even bladder cancer. Wade sensed something was off and quickly came clean. He admitted he'd had gastric bypass surgery, which reduced the size of his stomach, a common procedure for weight loss. Wade said he used to be extremely overweight, and he'd done it all to find love. But this kind of surgery wouldn't explain bubbles in the urine. To know for sure, they had to perform an endoscopy. So Wade was taken to the OR. But during the procedure, Shaun injected contrast dye, and it quickly spread and disappeared. There was only one explanation. Wade had a fistula connecting his bladder and colon. That's how air and bacteria were getting in, and why the bubbles appeared. Left untreated, it could cause serious infection. To fix the problem, Wade would have to reverse his gastric bypass. When he heard this, he immediately refused. He didn't want his partner to see what he used to look like. The doctors promised to keep it secret, but just then, Wade's partner arrived. And to everyone's surprise, it was another man. With Wade's condition and the fistula in mind, the doctors suddenly realized what was really going on. That's when Shaun had an idea, to operate without reversing the bypass, but it would increase the risk dramatically. Spence, Wade's partner, had some medical knowledge. He grew suspicious. If it was just a minor issue, why such a complicated procedure? Were they just trying to run up the bill? So during lunch, Spence confronted the attending physician, Alex, and demanded an explanation. When it looked like Spence might file a complaint, Alex had no choice but to tell him the truth. Once Spence learned everything, the couple got into a huge argument. Meanwhile, Shaun continued examining Wade's condition and made a shocking discovery. Wade was bleeding internally. The situation had escalated. Emergency surgery was now their only option. Luckily, the high-risk option was no longer needed. The doctors simply needed to adjust Wade's gastric bypass and suture the incision, so the procedure went remarkably smoothly. But afterward, Spence pulled out a photo of Wade before the weight loss. And truth be told, Wade was huge. Spence asked Alex after the surgery, "Will he go back to looking like this?" Alex nodded honestly. It was clear, Spence couldn't accept that version of Wade. He got up and walked out of the hospital. And just like that, a loving relationship ended. All because of a single urine test. So what do you think? Should couples keep secrets from each other?